Hello, everyone. This is Darcinovia once again. Yeah, it's a little earlier, early for a new Star Wars stream. This will likely not get the same views because I did this on a whim and didn't really give time for this stream to gain traction. So, for those of you who are watching after the stream is over, share this everywhere because I've said it before, but people haven't done it. I had a conversation with a friend earlier today, and it got me thinking that nuance in the Star Wars fandom is like non-existent. It really isn't. You say one thing online, and people assume that's just what your opinion is. They don't actually listen to what you have to say. They refuse to listen to what you have to say. And I got a response from some idiot on fucking Facebook of a Star Wars group. I'm not even going to mention names because I'm not going to incite harassment. That's not what I do. Yeah. I'm beyond done with talking to these creatures. I really am done. Like, Star Wars Facebook is cancer. Star Wars Twitter is cancer. And God knows what other platform. But this is not what this stream is about. I could rant endlessly of how much I despise social media regarding the interaction of the Star Wars community and social media because it fucking sucks. Nuance is non-existent. What motivated me to do this stream? Someone posted a clip of Dave Filoni talking about the Star Wars expanded universe. I made a comment, which is pretty reasonable, when I said I don't care what Dave Filoni or George Lucas have to say. The EU is better than anything they wrote. It's like, why can't we actually judge the stories based on their own merit? Why is it that the canonicity of these stories, whether they were or weren't canon, why is that the only thing being discussed whenever the EU is ever discussed in these groups at all? Why can't we judge anything based on its own merit? And I basically said, canon fans can't fucking do that because they know majority of the stuff is garbage. Of course, they've, as usual, in good fashion, instead of actually tackling the nuance of my argument and actually having a conversation that's productive, a productive Star Wars conversation in a Star Wars group. Yeah, that's fucking likely going to happen. I was basically put among the same basket as the reactionaries in the fucking fandom menace. This is what sectarianism does in action. There is no fucking conversation allowed to be at all. And yet another idiot that basically responded with a GIF. And you know what? I will say this with confidence. I am better than most of these people. I could say with confidence, and you could take this out of context if you want, for all you losers that hate watch me. I don't fucking care. I am better than you. I've been doing Star Wars content for almost 10 years now. Whether it's reviewing the books in the EU, whether it's talking about various things in Star Wars canon or the fandom, or doing streams like this, I'm fucking better than you because I could say with confidence that I, at the very least, engage with the conversation and willing to have these conversations. And when I'm wrong, I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. But no, these man children refuse to do that. And yeah, just because, you aren't like fucking geeks and gamers doesn't mean you aren't fucking man children too. Like, all these groups do is attack other Star Wars fans, attack Star Wars content creators that aren't really doing anything harmful. There is nothing that fucking can be said in these groups. You can't have a conversation, an actual conversation. Like, I don't, in any of these groups, you don't actually see discussions on anything. All you see is arguing over what is canon, or insulting other people, or someone making a long fucking post about something. But you never argue why this thing is good and why this thing is bad. And I'm saying this as someone that's been reviewing Star Wars content since 2015. I have almost a decade under my belt when it comes to my reviews. I have far more experience than any of these people. Sure, it may not be in written form, but majority of my reviews, I can say with confidence, I at the very least talk about these fucking stories, the good and the bad, and give my honest opinion about them. When you say something that these hive-minded people don't agree with, they insult you, they attack your character, it's basically make assumptions about your character. It's like none of these people would could even say the stupid shit they did if they actually watched me. Now, on Facebook, I don't actually share my content in these groups because I kind of want to keep my Facebook as apolitical as possible. The only time groups I ever say anything political is places where I feel safe to do so, such as Star Trek groups. Ironic, isn't it? I can actually have a nuanced conversation about what I like or don't like about the Star Trek franchise, but in Star Wars, that's impossible. It is impossible to have any nuanced conversations. Like, I'm just going to say this. Yeah, I made pretty much a hot take like a few days ago about, I don't think Ahsoka should exist. That doesn't mean I hate people that are fans of her character. I just wish people would stop assuming things about my character and actually pay attention to what I say. Stop exclusively watching what I say on my community post and watch my videos as well. It's fucking frustrating. It's one thing to hear someone say it and actually hear the tone of the way they say it versus reading what someone writes on a fucking community tab. Yes, I am ranting. I am being ranty right now because the nuance, people refuse to see the nuance. Like, this isn't like an indictment on any of you who are watching this, but I really wish you would pay attention to what I say. I'm not like attacking anyone just because they don't see Star Wars in the same way I do. I have a very specific way of looking at Star Wars, a very specific way. A very specific way. I'm talking about Star Wars media as a whole, not just the films. And I'm mostly talking, when I'm talking about Star Wars media, just look at, I have a playlist of all my Star Wars reviews that I've done so far. That's EU. I've occasionally talked about the movies. I occasionally talked about other things, talked about stuff in the fandom. Now, I'm not proud of all the takes that I've made since 2015, and I've retracted some of the stuff that I've said. And of course, I've made some serious enemies, like Star Wars Only and the people in the Fandom Menace. People, and this is the reason why I walked away from the Star Wars fandom for a while, because this sort of shit is what makes it not as fun to talk about Star Wars. I have more fun talking about Star Wars in private with people that I know. Yes, it is. It is just a fantasy, but I'm just talking about nuance. Because in the Star Wars fandom, nuance just doesn't exist. It really doesn't. Assumptions are made about your character just when you don't agree with 100% what the fucking hive mind says. It's like, why is Star Wars the one fandom? And I know this sounds like I'm attacking Star Wars fans, but this is not those who don't have an internet connection or just watch me when they're basically bored or they're with a bunch of friends. This is not towards you. This stream is on the online part of the Star Wars fandom. Because the online part of the Star Wars fandom is basically where I'm focusing on. Because that's where the most cancerous people come from. Whether they're mindlessly hating everything that's new, whether they're mindlessly consuming everything that's new, and get all bent out of shape when someone has a critique of it. Like, the only time nuance was ever allowed in the Star Wars fandom to a large degree was the early days of The Last Jedi Backlash, where we could have nuanced conversations about the current state of the Star Wars franchise. We were able to actually talk about the problems, the issues, what was currently going on, whether it's the movies, the TV, the shows that were running at the time, Rebels, or the thing with fucking EA, Battlefront 2, with the new canon books and comics. We were able to have these conversations. There was a brief period of time, just a brief period of time, where the Star Wars fandom, we were able to have an actual conversation without being at each other's throats, without actually wanting to fucking attack each other or attack each other's character for the littlest fucking shit. I have specific reasons I think the way I do about Star Wars. I have very specific reasons. And I understand why some people think the way they do about Star Wars. For me, Star Wars is not just George Lucas or Dave Filoni. It's much more than that. That's how I look at Star Wars. There's various aspects of Star Wars that I personally love. And I understand to some extent that not everyone shares my view on Star Wars. To some extent. And not everyone has to. We don't have to. We're fans, aren't we? But according to these sectarians, and I'm just going to call them that because that's exactly what these people are, that don't like these nuances being discussed, they pull up a form of sectarianism on all of us. I mean, it's people like that is why we fucking had this shitty sequel trilogy to begin with. It's people like that is the reason why, for so damn long, people were not allowed to openly discuss anything Star Wars, the good and the bad. It's this lack of nuance is why EU fans got so defensive of the EU that even the bad parts of the EU were mindlessly defended. We couldn't just actually have a discussion about the stories. Now, I'm going to acknowledge that I did play a part in this at one point. So I'm not innocent. Anybody that has only watched me in 2020, started watching me in 2020, don't believe anything I'm saying completely, because I'm not completely innocent. I did play a role in this. I played a part in the toxicity too. So I'm not going to act all innocent and say, "Oh, I did nothing wrong." I did. I played a part in making it, that community a cesspool. But the thing is, I could take accountability for what I've done. None of these people will, though. Yeah. It's just, I really wish that we could just we're allowed to just to simply have a conversation. Because it just seems like the Star Wars fandom is online, and mind you, I emphasize online, are not interested in having a dialogue with each other. They're just interested in starting shit with each other, starting shit with other people. Okay, I know I've criticized them both in the past, but you know what? Since this is a nuanced stream, and I'm trying to be as nuanced as I possibly can, I'm just going to say this. People need to lay the fuck off Star Wars only. Not Star Wars only. Sorry. Sorry, my brain is scattered mine. Sorry. Okay, Brody. Scattered brain. I'm scattered brain right now. Okay. I will say this again. People need to lay the fuck off Thor Skywalker and Star Wars theory. People need to lay the fuck off. I may not agree with them, but compared to what Geeks and Gamers and Doomcock are doing in the Star Wars fandom, how they're fucking contributed to the toxic cesspool or Ryan Kennel, Star Wars theory and Thor Skywalker are completely harmless. They are completely harmless. They're not the ones that are going around attacking people that disagree with them. They're not the ones that are waging wars of other people. Like these sectarians, these people on Facebook, and you know fucking who you fucking are, and who the Star Wars hubs on Facebook, you know who the fuck you are. You have nothing better to do with your time than constantly attack people because they enjoy Star Wars in a slightly different way. Fuck you. Seriously, fuck you. I'm sick of trying to appease to you people. This is one of the reasons why I do have a confession. I hate sequel fans. Not people who enjoy the sequels. I gotta make that known. There's a difference from between liking the sequels and being a fan of the sequels. So, fuck those people. I'm tired of these people. Those are the people that are attacking Thor Skywalker. Those are the people that are attacking Star Wars theory. Even if I don't agree with these people, they're one of the few channels that's actually holding the tide from total takeover of these far-right reactionaries from completely overtaking everything in the Star Wars fandom. Yeah, they have some problematic takes or stuff I don't agree with. But you know what? I will take Thor Skywalker and Star Wars theory over any of these people any day. Over Star Wars Hub on Facebook. Yeah, I know you're watching this. Over Geeks and Gamers. Over any of the people that, whether they hate the new Star Wars content endlessly or endlessly support everything Disney does and criticize anyone that has a slightly different opinion or a slightly different take. It's like it's like it was really disgusting. These people supported Papa Hidalgo's mocking of Star Wars theory when he was crying when Luke Skywalker appeared at the end of fucking Mandalorian season 2. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you? What is the fuck is wrong with you people? Sectarianism is the enemy of the Star Wars fandom. It truly is. As long as the sectarians are basically having the mainstream voice of the fandom, I'm just talking about those who have hundreds of thousands of views, who are the ones that are fucking shutting down any form of dissent. Like, there's no room to actually discuss anything. There's no in between. You can't just simply have a conversation. I understand that. It's just this is why Star Wars fans, to me, the best Star Wars fans are those I talk to offline, are those that I talk one-on-one, the ones that I basically have a personal relationship with. Those fans are cool. Or those, some of you may not care to hear this, the homeless anarchists in Arizona, those who are in the squatter houses, those Star Wars fans are cool because they get it. They get it. They're cool. Those who just want to enjoy Star Wars and don't really care about all this nonsense, they're cool too. I mean, are these people really harming anyone? People like Star Wars theory and Thor Skywalker. And it sounds like I'm defending these people, but I'm just trying to be as nuanced here about these people. They're not the ones that are actively making the fandom so toxic that we can't have a conversation on anything, good and bad. That's true. That's fine. The 6 films, if that's all you care about in Star Wars, or that's all you've seen, that's fine. Anything you believe, anything you say is still valid, regardless. I don't care if you only seen 6 of the Star Wars movies. You're still a fan to me. But these people, in order to be a fan, I'm not talking about these sectarian assholes. These people, you have to freaking like everything or nothing. It's all or nothing. There's like no room to actually decide, you know what? I like this, but I don't like this. I like this, but I don't like that. It's like, this is the reason why before I made my return, I guess you could say, when it comes to doing Star Wars content, I was driven away because these conversations cannot be had. Hell, I'd argue that same for the EU part of the community as well. It's like, to this very day, they're discussing, like, arguing with people. It's like, oh, the EU, George Lucas said this about the EU, or Dave Filoni said this about the EU. It's like, who fucking cares? Seriously, who fucking cares? We have the books on our bookshelves. No one's going to take that away. Why? Instead of discussing who gives a shit what George Lucas said about the EU? I don't fucking care. Why can't we just talk about what made these stories work? What didn't make these stories work? Why are we so fixated on this stupid shit that is canon? What are something's canon or legends? Who fucking gives a shit? It's like, seriously. Fuck Raylo. I'm just going to say this. Raylo, I'm just going to say this. I don't fucking care if I end up pissing people off some liberals here. If you fucking are a fan of Raylo, you're not a fucking Star Wars fan. Fuck you. I don't fucking care. And I will dictate that. Because if you're a fan of such a toxic relationship that makes it okay for like freaking men to abuse women, or for a woman to go with her abuser, essentially her rapist, you're anti-woman. You don't get to fucking tell me that I'm a fucking sexist pig or you're a fucking leftist. Fuck you. Fuck you. I fucking have a bunch of shit on my community tab basically saying death to America. If anybody is a leftist, it's me, not you. I am openly and proudly Antifa. I don't fucking apologize for it, and I won't apologize for it. I know what I am. I embrace what I am. Yeah, there's some people who watch me that don't agree with me, who probably hate what I believe. That's okay with me. Hell, as long as they're willing to maybe look at things beneath and maybe not judge things based on what they hear. For some people, at least hear me out. I have no problem. It's like, and for those of people who are like always complaining, it's like, why is there no leftist Star Wars YouTubers? Why is there anybody that is anti-feminist? Why aren't there more? Because people don't give a shit. Okay, nuance is not allowed to be had. The very fact is, consumerist culture is the main reason why we have such a huge obstacle when it comes to having a conversation, because there isn't enough people like me. I'm only one person with a mic. No, I'm the only person on this website that is not only openly a leftist, but I'm an EU fan, which you're never going to find. It doesn't exist. The very fact that I am a leftist and I'm an EU fan, I'm an anomaly. I'm literally an anomaly in Star Wars fandom. I really am an anomaly. Because I love freaking the EU. I don't make that a secret. Yeah, there's some issues I have with Filoni, but I've long since stopped caring. I've long since stopped caring. And honestly, I just don't care anymore. It's like the canon debate has gone to there is no nuance in it. It just feels like people have literally lost sight on why do we love Star Wars in the first place? Why do we why can't we just simply talk about these stories? And in fact, Why can't we talk to each other as people? Why can't we connect to each other as people? Why can't we see beyond preconceived notions? Yes, some of my viewers are reactionary. Yes, some of them may even lean right wing who may enjoy Star Wars. But you know what? Why can't we just talk? Why is simply wanting to talk? Is that too hard to ask? Just reach out. Heart to heart. Just talk to each other as human beings. Why is this so difficult? The sectarians are the biggest reason why we can't do that. And then you have the reactionaries who are doing the same thing in the fandom menace. Not one of them is worse than the other. They're as bad as each other. The fandom menace are openly fascist, and the sectarians in the Star Wars fandom shut down any conversation before they begin. They refuse to talk to anyone, or they mock your arguments or insult you. They can never actually talk to you or even answer your questions. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to even agree with me. Like, okay, most of my Star Wars content, it's not going to appeal to everyone because I'm an EU person. That's not a secret. I think everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. That's fine. That's fine. But there's also people who watch me who enjoy the EU, but also enjoy what's currently being airing on Disney Plus. There's no issue with that either. Now, some people may accuse me of being a gatekeeper because I do not accept sequel fans. I don't like them. I despise them. Sequel Star Wars fans are the one part of the Star Wars fandom I will not and cannot be at peace with because they are the ones I've suffered the most abuse from. They are the ones that have slandered me. Like, I shit you not, in 2018, I was slandered on Facebook for being one of the lead people of leading a boycott movement for Black Panther. And I didn't even know about it until I was being accused of leading a movement and I didn't know about it. And they got all pissed off when I fucking act hostile towards them for making such accusations. All these people, to me, they're scum. I don't care. I will say this. Sequel fans are scum. You could enjoy them, you could like them, but that does not mean you're a fan of them. Hell, there's some bad movies I fucking like, but that doesn't mean I'm a fan of it. I love Ninja Turtles 3. Am I a fan of it? Hell no. It's like freaking anybody that has been around in 2015 and like half of 2018 could tell you that what I'm saying is fucking true. Sequel fans were awful. And there are such a small, tiny minority in this fandom. And be honest with you, why should we cater to these fucking people? Why? Fuck Rey fans, seriously. You know what? I will say this, and I'll say this proudly. Ahsoka Tano is a better character than Rey will ever be. In fact, I'll take it even a step further. What would make the Rey Skywalker movie great is if Rey failed miserably and Ahsoka picked up the pieces and started the Jedi Order herself, doing what Rey could not. In my opinion, Ahsoka. No, fuck this. It's not an opinion. It's a fucking fact. In fact, if you disagree with me, you're wrong. If you don't agree with me, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Ahsoka is the only person I consider worthy of the title Skywalker. In fact, I think Ahsoka should have the title Skywalker. She should have the name Skywalker. In fact, she's a Skywalker in all but name, far more than Rey could ever be. And you know what? Even though I don't think Ahsoka should ever have existed, in my opinion, I would gladly watch that sort of film if Rey was a failure and Ahsoka picked up the pieces and she revived the Jedi. Because to me, Ahsoka should be doing it, not Rey. Fuck Rey. And you know what? If Dave Filoni did that, if he basically made Rey a huge reason why the Jedi did not go extinct post Order 66, he would forever have my respect, and I would mount a picture on my wall to the end of my days and pray to it every day if Dave Filoni did that. Yes. To me, that single-handedly would save the sequel era for me. If Ahsoka instead of Rey revived the Jedi. You know what? I don't care. You've heard it here first. And you know what? Fuck Rey. and you know what? I'm saying this as someone who is not a Rey fan. Not a Rey fan, Ahsoka fan. A non-Ahsoka fan wants this to happen. This just goes to show you I hate Rey so much that even though I'm not an Ahsoka fan, I want Ahsoka to be a Skywalker. I want Ahsoka to be the Grand Master, not Rey. Because Ahsoka, let's think about this. Ahsoka, if she were to revive the Jedi, she'd be close to her 80s. She had decades of experience, more than qualified to teach other masters. Not to mention, Chakrudas can live for God knows how many years. I don't know how it is in canon, but they can live for a very long time. Come on. Make that a fucking thing on Twitter. I don't care. Ahsoka Skywalker. I don't care. Make it happen. It's like, I know people are gonna, those who's like, wait, I thought you hated Ahsoka, Darth Sinovia. Yeah, but you want to know something? People can change. And you know what? Change is never a bad thing, especially if it's something positive. Like, yeah, I will always prefer the EU, and I would have rather Ahsoka maybe not have existed. But you know what? That it is what it is. If I had the choice between Ahsoka not existing versus Rey, I'd rather have Ahsoka, because at least we have a good female character in Star Wars. At least we have a good woman character in Star Wars. Because let's be honest, since the canon purge of Star Wars, what female characters do we actually have that's actually good? And I'm being real. I mean, I don't know anything about Dr. Afra or Alpha, whatever her name is. I've heard she is one of the few canon characters that are good. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen Rebels, so I cannot comment. But Ahsoka is the only one that comes to mind when it comes to good female characters. And I'm not talking about characters that have existed for not even 20 years. Characters that were invented at least since 2008. I cannot name that many female characters in Star Wars that have been created at that time that are actually as good or as well or competently as written as Ahsoka. Because all my favorite female characters in Star Wars were not made in the 2000s. They were made in the 1990s. Majority of my favorite characters that were my favorite women characters in Star Wars. A lot of great and amazing characters. But the ones that survived the canon purge, one of them was Ahsoka. And let's be honest here, Leia is kind of boring in my opinion. That's a hot take. I think Padme is a good character, but then again, we already had the Clone Wars, and she was a pre-existing character. But I'm just going by new female characters that have been created since 2008. Ahsoka is the only one I can truly think of that is objectively on the top. Yeah, she was annoying. And I'm bringing a nuanced discussion here, even though I'm not the biggest fan of her character. But I know a good and well-written character when I see one. And I'm doing this as someone that is interested in creative writing. Separating my bias here. Ahsoka is one of the best written Star Wars characters. And if anyone that disagrees with me, you're fucking wrong. Fuck off. Unless you've seen her storyline, at least in the Clone Wars at the bare minimum, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about when it comes to character development. If you cannot see the character development from the Clone Wars movie all the way to the end of the Clone Wars animated series, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Ahsoka is one of the best developed characters in Star Wars. And this is coming from someone who isn't the biggest fan of her character. Yes, they do hate democracy. But it isn't just the fandom menace. It's also the sectarians that are basically no different from them. Like, why is it that these people to this very day, even though they're basically a dying breed, Why is it they're so defensive of the freaking sequel trilogy? I mean, there's a fucking Facebook page called Ray Skywalker Core who's coping and seething because sequel fans have been eating good in the past few years. Like they were so pissed off when Anakin returned in Ahsoka. That's like, yeah, continue to fucking cry. Continue to fucking like, I'll drink your salty tears because you know, fuck you. It's like you deserve everything, and I like your time will come. Yeah, you may get a fucking shit movie that most people won't fucking give a fuck about after it's fucking over. But you know what? Sequel fans are eating shit while prequel fans are eating gold. Like the prequels have been fucking vindicated. In fact, if anybody, the biggest victors since 2012 have been the prequels. The prequel fans have won. They fucking have. In fact, is it any coincidence that the best material currently in the new canon, and I'm going by the outside the shows, is prequels? The prequel stuff is great. I have yet to read a bad prequel story that takes place in the new canon. Well, there's one, but that was based off a unfinished episode of Clone Wars, but whatever. With some exceptions, when it comes to quality control in the prequel era of the new canon, it's a 99.9% success rate when it comes to quality. That is fucking impressive. Well, and to be honest, yes, we sequel fans, yeah, we're better than you. We're better than you we prequel fans are better than you. We're eating fucking gold right now while you're eating dog shit. You haven't gotten anything. And you know what? I will fucking gloat when it comes to sequel fans because they have mocked, ridiculed, and harassed people that didn't fucking like The Force Awakens. In fact, I know this. I have a long memory. Nobody's going to make me fucking forget. And you know, the Fandom Menace, they were on it too. They are the kind of people that harass people that for not liking The Force Awakens. So none of these people can like rewrite history and act like, oh, we're so oppressed. Lucasfilm hates us. Fuck you. Seriously, fuck you. The sequels, fucking, you were eating them up. You were eating their shit. But because The Last Jedi didn't fucking give you what you want, they gave you a fucking, they didn't, Luke Skywalker wasn't a fucking Chad like you wanted him to. Freaking, you fucking got all pissed off. But you know what? I'm just going to say this. None of these fuckers cared about Luke Skywalker until The Last Jedi came out. In fact, they still don't fucking care about Luke Skywalker. They never did. What these people cared about was Han, because Han to them was the Chad. Oh, Han was the Chad. Luke Skywalker, they didn't like him. In fact, I would argue that these sectarians who want to revise history claim that nobody liked Luke Skywalker. Nobody cared about Luke Skywalker until The Last Jedi. I'm sorry, you stupid fucking sectarians. Those who act like, you know Star Wars better than the people who actually followed it for many years. If people didn't care about Luke Skywalker, they would not have read fucking a bunch of books that took place after Return of the Jedi that continued Luke's story. People would not have cared about Luke Skywalker getting married. People would not have given a shit like after Luke's wife died. People would not have given a shit about freaking wanting to see the resolution behind his children's story, his grandchildren, whatever ones he had. Nobody would have given a shit if they didn't care about Luke Skywalker. The thing is, Star Wars fans cared about Luke Skywalker. It's these sectarians or these reactionary shitheads that love the sequels when they first came out, and those who mindlessly defend them. They never gave a fuck about Luke Skywalker. They love the fucking version we got in The Last Jedi. The version that's just a piece of shit fucking scumbag coward that abandons his friends at the time of need. They love the Luke Skywalker that's a fucking failure that basically goes back on his fucking word. They like that Luke Skywalker because these people, they project their failures onto people like Luke, people like Han. It's like, oh, you know what? Life sucks. So, it is what it is. It's like, yeah, well, fuck you. Most of us normal people don't want to actually see the failures, your failures reflected on people that we fucking grew up watching and reading for all these years. There's a reason why people loved EU Luke and still do, because EU Luke is an amazing character. And you people cannot understand nuance if it was fucking thrown in your fucking face. The only way to give Luke nuance is for Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau having to come up with a fucking miracle to make the Last Jedi version of Luke Skywalker make any goddamn sense. Because it's like, no, fuck you. You don't get to freaking act like you've always freaking cared about. Same thing. I'm going by the reactionaries. I know this is a mess. Whatever. It's a fucking stream. You reactionaries don't get to act like, we always loved Luke Skywalker. No, you've never loved Luke Skywalker. And those who genuinely love Luke Skywalker, they're a very small minority. You only were pissed off because you didn't get the Chad Luke Skywalker that you wanted. That's why you fucking hate the freaking Last Jedi. You don't hate it because, I don't know, this movie, yeah, it sucks. Borderline fascist propaganda at times. Luke Skywalker freaking having a valid message about the Jedi. Oh, the Jedi suck. But going back on it at the end of the movie, it's not like the Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. I'll discuss this when I eventually get to the Last Jedi video. I am talking about that movie again. You had a good story with Luke Skywalker. The problem? They told it in one film when you could have told it in 3 films. But no, we can't have that conversation, though. We can't even talk about, you know what? There's a lot of racist bullshit in the sequel trilogy. If you bring this up with the sectarians, they'll attack you. It's like, you're lying. You're full of shit. And you know what? Isn't it funny? And I know this is getting political. I don't fucking give a shit. I mean, this is true. Why is it always white liberals that are defending the sequels? It's always white liberals. It's always fucking white liberals and borderline radical liberals that defend the sequels. Oh my God, yeah, the sequels, people don't like them because they're racist or they're sexist. Oh yeah, let's actually ignore like black Star Wars fans hating the sequels because they made fucking Finn into a joke. Like, what the hell happened to like we want to talk about great black representation in Star Wars? Look no further than Mace Windu and fucking Lando. Like, Mace Windu, a badass, a competent general that was in charge. Actually, if it weren't for Anakin being a little whiny little bitch, he would have actually stopped the Sith from rising. Mace Windu was a competent Jedi master. He was a badass motherfucker, and even though it's never mentioned in the movie, he knew one of the most badass fighting styles in all of fiction. So yeah, Mace Windu for the win. Lando Calrissian. Lando, my boy Lando, he was an entrepreneur. He actually was very smart. He was charming. It doesn't help the fact that Billy D. Williams is an amazing actor. And not to mention, he saved everyone. If it weren't for Lando, everyone would have been killed or captured by the Empire. Hell, if it weren't for Lando, the rebellion would have lost at Endor because of his leadership skills. Like, you had great representation in the original trilogy. Lando was awesome. And in the EU, for those of you who are curious, Lando is amazing. His friendship with Luke Skywalker is some of the best character writing ever in Star Wars. It's such a shame we never get that. We'll never get that with Lando and Luke. They had such a great friendship together, and his friendship with Han, and Lando's friendship with the family of the Solos. He was basically the uncle of Luke and Han and Leia's children. He was awesome. But if we're going by the movies themselves strictly, Lando is fucking basically a Chad. Mace Windu is a Chad, and Finn is a Beta. Nobody fucking wants to look pathetic, and that is a step down in representation, because it's no secret that Hollywood's racist. The very fact that the sequels was a step back in representation says a lot. Like, don't believe me? Rey is the overly competent white woman that basically does everything right, and when she makes a mistake, there isn't any consequences. But when Finn makes a mistake, he almost dies, or it's a butt of jokes. Like, poor Finn doesn't get one moment in the movie where he actually gets a win or he actually does something to help the resistance. He's basically a butt of joke. He's portrayed as stupid. Rey talks down to him like he's a moron. Like that one scene, like in The Force Awakens. Don't be surprised if I talk about this again, but I'm just bringing this up where the way Rey talks to him is so demeaning. Like, imagine this. You're a black man watching The Force Awakens in 2015, and you see your own community being mocked in a franchise that once did represent the black community in a positive way. You had fucking Lando Calrissian in the original trilogy, and Mace Windu. Great representation, though I'd say Lando is a better representation in my opinion, but still, great characters. Then you go from them to fucking Finn, who fucking makes freaking the entire black community look like a joke. Yeah, black men have every right to hate the sequel trilogy. In fact, this is why I say it's white liberals that defend this shit. And then The Last Jedi, you just have one racist stereotype after another. You have a racist stereotype of Asian women. You have a racist stereotype of black men. You have some weird and creepy shit with freaking like the over sexualization of women. This creepy like thing with Rey and Kylo. In every single way, the sequel trilogy is a step down in representation. Don't give me that fucking bullshit about representation in Star Wars. Like George Lucas, there wasn't as much representation. George Lucas, bullshit. Bullshit. Complete bullshit. And in fact, you want to know the most diverse Star Wars film is Rogue One. I may not like that movie, but it's the most diverse most diverse Star Wars movie because the heroes of that film were multi-ethnic. And if you ask me, that is good representation. Yeah, they all died in the end, but then again, they said that from the very start that it was a suicide mission. So yeah, and then, by the way, I'm elaborating further. Solo, you had a black actress who had a character who seemed to be cool when you first saw her. Then she gets killed off, and all the reactionaries complain, "Oh my God, she's complaining about representation." It's like, yeah, you're damn right. I wouldn't be surprised if the original cut, that character had a bigger role in the film, and the actress was just killed off in the opening scene of the movie. A really cool character, potentially dead. And this is, of course, I'm getting to this to the point where now, why is the current era for Star Wars, and I'm going by the shows, what makes this so much different? You actually have more representation. You have people of multiple ethnic backgrounds on screen. Yeah, you have some characters that are they're aliens, but here's the thing: Ahsoka herself, I was iffy at first by having a different actress play the character and not have the voice actor just do the voice. But you know what? It works. Because if you look at Ahsoka's facial features and the facial features of the Trogota, nobody can capture those features but a black woman. And having a black woman play Ahsoka, that was brilliant. And I think Dave Filoni made a good choice. Because to me, Ahsoka was always black. She always has been black and always will be black. And the very fact is, she's probably the best representation when it comes to black characters. Well, not black characters, but a black actor playing a hero in Star Wars. And she's a main fucking character, a main hero. Now, I'm being objective here. Yes, I'm not the biggest Ahsoka fan, but I will give credit where credit's due. For once, we have a black woman as the hero of Star Wars, even though the character is an alien, obviously, but it's played by a black woman. Of course, there's other stuff I could complain about, but the so-called representation in the sequels, like get a great actress play Maz Kanata, but you've had her be CGI, but you don't actually have the actual character just to show the actors on screen. Like they're like, of course, there's other problems, but it's just they're afraid of showing black people because let's be honest here, Star Wars has a white supremacist audience. It really does have a white supremacist audience, and I know some people brought up the EU had representation, but for everyone who are watching this here, and I'm trying to expand the conversation. Yes, the EU had representation. Yet a lot of black characters, a lot of, but I'm talking about strictly from on screen because we could use our imaginations. Like we don't know what the ethnic of some of these characters unless we hear it described by the author. And some of characters we have to basically look up what they look like. So yes, as good as that representation is, I'm mostly talking about stuff that's on screen. And it's like, yes, I know this isn't the exact topic I'm talking. It started off as, but to be honest, this is what I'm talking about when it comes to this. The nuanced conversations about Star Wars, the franchise as a whole, and why you're having two groups that are identical that are shutting down conversation. Like, yes, the lack of representation in Star Wars should have been called out a long time ago. But the very fact is, nobody would do it. In fact, if people had did that, they'd be attacked by the liberals and the fucking fascists in the Star Wars fandom. So you have two sides of the fandom that fucking censor everyone. Like, seriously, people need to fucking let black fans speak. There is one fan in Star Wars that is black. I forgot his name, but he's done some great content. One of the best creators out there. Probably the most left-leaning of any of the people that I talked about in this video, but he does great content. And he talks about stuff from a black perspective. That's the thing. We don't have the black perspective when it comes to Star Wars. And I know people are going to say, you're white, Darth Sinovia. Why are you talking about this? Because the very fact is the Star Wars community is fucking white. It is too fucking white. The most prominent people in the fandom are fucking white. And I know there's fans that aren't white. There's a lot of them. I've spoken to some of them. In fact, I am personal friends of one of them. The fact is, these people, a lot of them are driven away from the fandom because they suffer racist harassment or like, because let's be honest here, when it comes to creators who are in various fandoms, they are viciously attacked by these white supremacists. Yes. Yes. And I'll just say this, Star Trek fans, they're a lot better than Star Wars fans because they speak up against this sort of stuff. They don't ignore problematic aspects of the franchise like Star Wars fans do. They don't ignore the problems in the fandom like Star Wars fans do. Jesse Jerner did a very good video about religion, why it's important in Star Trek. And that was a very good video, a very nuanced video. I'm not religious, but her argument that religion is important to Star Trek, that various things will not exist without religion, such as the Vulcans would not exist without Jewish culture. That's an example of what I'm talking about. Star Trek, these conversations can be had. That's why I enjoy talking to Star Trek fans a lot. Yes, there's awful people in the Star Trek fandom, and there's a lot of bad people. But I can go to a Star Trek group, and I'm part of a few. They're cool people. Not all of them I like to talk to, but with Star Trek fans, they're more inclusive. Star Wars fans, they're inclusive in name only. And I can't be the only one that builds this community. That's the reason why I'm reluctant to try it again, because I'm white. I'm someone with white privilege, even though I want to say I'm not, that I'm post-white. I embrace my Irish heritage. I still benefit from white privilege. And I can't be the only one that starts this community. If I want to start a community again, I can't do it with just white people. Every single time I start a Star Wars group, it's all fallen to shit. And majority of the time, it's because how fucking white these groups are. The Star Wars fandom is too damn white. Way too fucking white. Way too chauvinistic. It isn't just nuance regarding what we think of certain parts of the franchise, but there's other things that we need to talk about too. Like the Star Wars franchise has a racism problem, and it's gotten worse since Disney's taken over. Or Star Wars has some problematic things, like I don't know, kind of promoting slavery through the droids. Star Wars having talented actors of uh, talented talented actors of African descent, but not giving them any roles except aliens for the most of the time. You have a lot of problems in the Star Wars fandom. There's a lot of fucking people. And the only way this fandom can actually change, what's fuck fandom? The community. Let's fuck it. Let's talk about community. Fuck fandom, community. Community, community, community. For the community to change in Star Wars, we have to make it less white. Those who are like myself, who have a decently sized platform, we need to lift up those who are from marginalized backgrounds, who are Star Wars fans, who are making Star Wars content. We need to lift them up. And I'm not talking about I'm not just talking about women. I'm talking about marginalized groups in general who make Star Wars content. I'm just one dude on the internet with a mic. Yeah, you do have people like Jessie Jerner who does Star Wars content, but her focus is primarily on Star Trek. And she's not enough. She's just one person as well. But what I'm talking about is we need non-white people to speak out more. And I can't expect them to do that if the people that refuse to acknowledge there's a problem refuses to talk about it. There is a problem. Down with fucking fandom. Enough of fandom needs to die. The very concept of it needs to die. We need it to build communities. Star Wars, the Star Wars community needs to be a safe space. Yeah, I don't care. Mock me for saying that word. I don't care. It needs to be a safe space for marginalized groups. Because there's a good reason why a lot of Star Wars fans are terrified of going on social media. And some of these people I don't care if you don't think the people that watch me who are homeless, who are fans of Star Wars, they may not be valuable to you, but fuck you. They're fans just like you, just like me. If you're not a fan of George Lucas's Star Wars films, and I mean the first 6 films, the ones that he was involved with, if you're not a fan of those films, to be honest, fuck off and don't call yourself a Star Wars fan. And that goes for those who are EU fans too. If you are not a fan of the original 6 films, the foundation of everything, without the original trilogy, you have no EU. Without the prequels, you don't have some of the best stories that came out from the EU from that period. Without the prequels, you don't have Clone Wars. Whether it's the 2003 series or 2008 series, you don't have either one. So everything that you love about Star Wars today would not exist. If you don't love those films, the pillars of Star Wars, then you're not a fan. And you know what? I'm completely okay with those who watch me who don't really care about the stuff that beyond the 6 films, because you know what? That's fine. Some people just care about certain aspect of the franchise. To me, that is all right. I'm more of a fan of the stuff in the EU than I am of the 6 films, but I love the 6 films nevertheless, because without the 6 films, there would be no EU. And to me, I don't hold the 6 films as lower or higher form of Star Wars. To me, it's just Star Wars. The only thing I will say that's less of Star Wars is the sequels, because to me, they're not Star Wars. They're shit. They're trash. Even the worst stuff that Dave Filoni makes, he's ever involved in, is still better than the sequels, because at least Filoni I may not be a fan of everything he does. Hell, I don't like some of him not respecting pre-existing material, whether it's the past or the present. But at least Dave Filoni, his heart is the right place. At least when Dave Filoni makes really good stories, well, he's not 100% involved. There's other people that help make the stories good as well. Dave Filoni makes good shit. When he makes good shit, it's really fucking good. Nobody in this era of makes consistently good content as Filoni, and I'm being objective here, and Favreau. But they shouldn't be the only ones that make that quality content. In fact, if there's a conversation that should be had, and the one thing that does worry me is Filoni and Favreau are two people out of many. Yes, you still have your Timothy Zahns that still exist out there that still write stories. You still have John Jackson Miller. But again, Timothy Zahn, I'm just talking about him because he helped build he's the reason why Thrawn exists. So it's completely relevant. The guy is almost at the same age as George R.R. Martin. He can only write so much Star Wars before he's not able to do it anymore. We need another generation of writers that are as good as Zahn. And we need some writers that are as good as Lucino. And there are good people out there. There's good writers that exist in Star Wars right now that are basically in Gen X or millennials. But there's not that many of them that are actually good. And Filoni, he's still young to the point where he could make Star Wars for the next 20 years. Same thing with Favreau. But we need more than just them. That's why people should stop sucking the dicks out of these two individuals and don't ignore the other people that worked on Clone Wars and Rebels, because they made Star Wars good as well. Star Wars is made with thousands of individuals, and we need to stop with the individualism of Star Wars, because it's always the community that worked on this stuff that makes it great. The EU was made by hundreds of people. It would not be as good as it was if you didn't have people like Lilin Chi, Hapala Hidalgo, and various others keeping track of the continuity, keeping track of these stories being consistent. Star Wars is truly at its best when you have a unity of people that work towards a greater goal. That is what makes Star Wars good. It isn't one person, it's thousands that make Star Wars good. Because if we only had one person or whatever working on this stuff, then we would have a bunch of messy shit in general. Star Wars is more than just one person or two or three. It's thousands of people. They deserve to have their work acknowledged. Well, except J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams could burn in hell in a ditch. Because as far as I'm concerned, J.J. Abrams is the Antichrist. J.J. Abrams, of course, I'm gonna make a joke here, but I blame J.J. Abrams for the COVID pandemic. I blame J.J. Abrams for 9/11. In fact, I blame J.J. Abrams for every bad thing that's currently happening. So, yeah, fuck J.J. Abrams. To me, he's the devil. And regarding the last thing I said, when I say he's the devil, I fucking mean it. Everything that is wrong with the sequel era lies at his feet. Everything that was bad about Star Wars from 2015 to 2019 is at J.J. Abrams' feet. The fact remains is 2019 was the year Star Wars came back from the dead. Because to be honest, Star Wars was dead pretty much after The Force Awakens came out. Like, it was basically on life support. It wasn't until 2019 when you start slowly seeing a resurgence. You start seeing the canon starting to actually get better. Mandalorian came out. The Rise of Skywalker basically came and went. Nobody freaking really acknowledged its existence. In fact, you didn't actually... Most people don't even talk about the Rise of Skywalker. When it came out, people were like, oh, Rise of Skywalker. That was a thing? Yeah. Okay. Whatever. That basically is what I'm talking about when it comes to like Star Wars. It's been a slow resurrection, I will say this. I really do hope I really don't want any more movies for Star Wars. I think Star Wars should stick to doing shows at this point. But Disney, being a greedy corporation, will not want to keep Star Wars strictly to shows. But that's the reason why Star Wars has been able to maintain consistent continuity. I'm not talking about canon here. I'm not talking about when it comes to like quality. I guess you could say that when it comes to continuity, when it comes to quality. Because when it comes to the good and bad ratio of content that's been released on screen, now we're stick to the on screen stuff. There's been basically a over 80% success rate. And that's impressive. That's better than it was before The Last Jedi came out. Yeah, the tie-in material is still bad in my opinion. And the High Republic, this is probably going to piss some people off and surprise people. If you want to know an era of Star Wars I hate more than the sequel trilogy that I consider awful, even worse, it's the High Republic. Complete and utter garbage. Trash. Complete fucking trash. I will not watch Acolyte. I will not watch anything that has anything to do with that trash. Fuck Acolyte. I will not watch it. That there's one show I will not watch on Disney Plus, it's Acolyte. Anything that has anything to do with the High Republic is awful. I don't want to freaking deal with this terrible era that basically has the politicians of the Republic being portrayed in a positive light. These politicians are great people. Fuck you. I want the slimy and scummy politicians that we see in freaking Ahsoka. I want the slimy politicians that we got in the EU days, where people learn to hate politicians because of Star Wars. Star Wars should be teaching us to hate politicians, not like them or suck up to them. I like Chancellor Valorum. He was a he's basically the Bill Clinton of Star Wars, and the novel Cloak of Deception just reinforces this. Like, I want that Star Wars. I want the Star Wars that makes us hate politicians. Because to me, if you're reading a Star Wars novel where a good chunk of the politicians are fucking likable people, no, you're doing your fucking job wrong. Star Wars is supposed to make you hate politicians. Okay, yeah, you might have some good people that are on the good guy's side that might be a politician, like Mon Mothma and Leia and a few others. But fuck, in general, we're not supposed to support politicians. And you know what? One of the few good politicians that existed in Star Wars, though he's not canon anymore, is Bill Iblis. Bill Iblis is based, probably because he's from Corellian, and Corellian like characters in Star Wars is probably some of the most based characters when it comes to their politics and when it comes to their characters, from Corran Horn to Han Solo to Wedge Antilles to Mirax. Like, all of them are fucking awesome. All of them are awesome characters, and they're all Corellian. You know what? Wait, is Mirax Corellian? Okay, I'm sorry. It's been a long time. But seriously, Star Wars is supposed to teach us to hate freaking politicians and to fight to save democracy. Not this like lib shit that the High Republic gives us. Bill Iblis was fucking based as fuck. Like, and you know what? Bras Faria, he's probably one of the most hated characters in Star Wars that's ever been written on page. Every time I see him on screen, I just want to strangle the motherfucker. But you know what? That is the kind of character I want to see in Star Wars. And if Ahsoka can make me have a politician that's as vile, that's as corrupt as that piece of shit, that is what would make me watch Star Wars. Because politicians are supposed to be slimy people. I mean, freaking that Clone episode with freaking Padme, when she was trying to like stop further defunding of government programs that help the poor, that is what we need to see more of. In fact, we need to see that in live action. Like, because this side of the Star Wars universe that I'm talking about, we don't see in animation outside of animation. Yeah, fuck. Ross Ferry is a fucking asshole. He's the reason why the freaking New Republic collapsed in the New Jedi Order series. Yeah, exactly. This is what Star Wars is meant to be. In the EU, you had that happen too. In fact, this is the reason why I'm saying the sectarians who are sequel fans who are complaining about this new stuff, like, let's be honest, they hate this new stuff too. Because they don't like the fact that Star Wars is actually becoming something else. If you ask me, the one thing that held Star Wars back when Disney bought it was the sequel trilogy. Because you had to do everything had to conform to what Disney was doing at the time. Because everything had to be brainless, mindless, freaking nonsense from the books and the comics. Like you rarely got anything good, and like you had to fucking climb over a mountain for good content. In fact, I refuse to read anything pre 2019 when it comes to like new canon material, unless it's like the Thrawn books, because Timothy Zahn writes some pretty fucking amazing material in Star Wars. Again, I really do hope this stream, for those who are watching it, at least it's given some nuance. Because to be honest, people, when they, no offense to those who are watching this or who pay attention to my community tabs, I really wish you would pay attention to my videos more. Because, yeah, I say some edgy stuff and I probably make a joke and just ruffle up some feathers here and there, but I don't hate people who hate who love Ahsoka. I don't care, because Ahsoka, she has her fans. There's people that love her. I don't hate the character, and I did lay it out earlier that she's one of the best written characters in the Star Wars franchise. I won't deny that to her character. As someone that's doing character writing himself, I have no right to freaking like say, "Oh, this character is badly written," when I have yet to finish a character's arc in my own stories. It's very difficult to freaking write good stories. And you know what? Dave Filoni, whatever his faults are, he's trying. He's literally working with a giant mountain of shit. That's what the sequel trilogy is. And he has to clean up the fucking mountain of shit bit by bit. Like, J.J. Abrams literally left him a fucking mountain of shit, and he has to freaking clean it up. Yeah, the Disney shows will basically make the sequel trilogy completely irrelevant culturally. They already are. Even if I'm not the biggest fan of them, I could appreciate them for at least pushing the quality of content again. Because what happens in the on-screen stuff affects the tie-in material too. Because if the tie-in material is awful, that reflects what's on screen. Because if you really want to be real, if I'm a real bit here with you, the worst time to be a Star Wars fan was 2014 to 2019, because majority of the stuff that was released has been either mediocre or complete utter rubbish. Yes, you may have like maybe a few not good novels, like the Thrawn books. I have not read the first Thrawn trilogy, at least on the new canon, at least all of them. You had like the Padme novels, which I haven't read them all, which of course they were released in 2019, actually. You had like a few other stuff. There are some gems in the early canon era of Star Wars, the early era. But majority of that stuff is just so fucking bad. The only way I would ever read fucking Aftermath is if I did a vote, and I'm not kidding you, and I have to do between Aftermath and the Crystal Star, which book do they want me to do a video about? That's the only way I'd ever read it. And to take it a step further, I wouldn't just read the first book. I'd read all of them. Yeah, I'm dead fucking serious. It would be torture to read through some of the worst literature ever in Star Wars, but I would fucking do it, and I would do it for your own fucking amusement. That's how much I would do it. Because you know what? Yes, I do stuff on Fantiva. Yes, I do Star Wars content that I like to do. I like to talk about the EU, but at the end of the day, I am an entertainer, and sometimes I do have to entertain you. Yeah, I've done some rants in this whole thing. This video is a fucking disorganized mess. It truly is a fucking mess. Oh God, you really want to make me suffer. But Rebels comes first, though. I will not go through that unless I go through the first Thrawn trilogy in the new canon and watch all of Rebels. Fuck. Well, I don't care if they have buyer's remorse. And you know what? Some of them actually were EU fans too. But you know what? Fuck them. They're the reason why we don't fucking have we don't have nice things. Okay, regarding the topic of gatekeeping, God, this is complete. The topic has changed, but you know what? Fuck it. I'll keep going as long as possible. The only time gatekeeping is justified if it's with certain groups, like reactionaries who are actively trying to harm other people for, like, the fascists who are literal fucking Nazis. They should be gatekeeped out of the Star Wars fandom. Eventually, they will be reviewed. I'm going to do all of them. You will get what you want. Everyone here will get what they want. It will happen this year. Well, okay. I got to clarify this again. Again, nuance. Certain types of people should be gatekeeped. Fascists do not deserve a safe space in the Star Wars fandom. In fact, they should be kicked to the curb. And I mean all kinds of fascists. I mean every type of fascists. Reactionaries, that's too much of a blanket statement, because there are people that are reactionary minded that aren't harmful people, that aren't there to harm you. So we got to be very careful. It has to be very specific kinds of reactionaries. Fascists are the ones I think should be gatekept, and I don't fucking care if it's me basically waging a war with majority of the Star Wars fandom. I'm already enemies of a good chunk of the fandom anyway. Fuck you. I don't care. I think those people should be gatekept. And you know what? This is going to be more controversial. I think sequel fans should be gatekept too, because they're the reason why that fucking, and also original trilogy sectarians, that I put them in the same camp. Both of them should be gatekept. They should not be welcomed in any forms. In fact, they shouldn't be welcomed anywhere in the Star Wars community. They've created this atmosphere that currently exists, where we cannot have a nuanced conversation about anything. What makes this thing good? What makes this bad? In fact, or talk about the finer details. Because a friend of mine, we disagree strongly when it comes to CGI Luke. I don't like CGI Luke. To me, it's an abomination. But we can have that conversation because we could present our own arguments for or against it. And that is something we should be allowed to have. We should be allowed to have these conversations, and we should be civil. Yes, well, this is, again, I may at times refer to fandom out of habit. So it's going to take time for me to say community and say it. To say community and say it without thinking. So yeah, and we should be able to have this conversation. Oh, this story. I'm just using the EU example because this is the one I can talk from experience. We should be able to have a nuanced conversation about certain decisions that were made in the EU, like whether we liked it or not. Example, I actually think Chewbacca's death in the EU worked for the story. I think any other character's death would have not have worked. I actually think Chewbacca's death basically made Chewbacca even more important to the Solo family. It made everyone actually truly appreciate it. In fact, I think Chewbacca going out as a hero is the best way to honor the character. Because let's compare Chewie's death to Han Solo. Han Solo died like a bitch. He died and nobody gave a shit. Nobody actually, they treated his death, it's like, that guy's dead. Okay, let's move on. Yet when Chewie died in Vector Prime, the effects fucked Han up to the where Han and Leia's marriage almost collapsed because Chewie was basically Han's brother. And if you read the novels that take place long before he met Leia, it adds even more to his death because Chewie was basically there when Han was at his lowest point, when Han lost everything, when Han was basically betrayed by the woman he loved the second time. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kira does not exist in the EU. There was another woman called Berea Thane. Like, she was Han's first love in the EU. And Chewie was there for all those times. The worst, like, things that he'd been through before he met Leia. Han and Chewie went through thick and thin. And to have him die like that, it fucked him up. And to me, Han's reaction, it felt natural for Han's character. Like, Chewbacca in the EU met so much of the Solo family. He was basically the uncle of Jason, Jaina, and Anakin. His death had an impact, and I will argue that it was the right call. Killing Luke, what would that have done, really, for the EU? Killing off Luke. That just would have been, okay, that's just shock value. And you know what? George Lucas made the right call when he said, oh, fuck no, you're not doing that. Don't kill Luke. You kill anybody else, but not Luke. If there's one thing I agree 100% George on when it comes to the EU is not allowing the authors to kill off whoever they fucking wanted. Because George Lucas in the EU, you weren't able to kill the droids and you weren't able to kill Luke or Lando. Those were the characters that were off limits for George. Because to him, they lived a full life. I respect that for George. And I think that's how it should have happened with Luke. But again, I'm going to go on other conversations, though, that I could have in the EU that's nuanced. I don't know how if fans would agree with me. I think Mara Jade's death and sacrifice in Legacy of the Force, I thought was a great way to send off her character. Again, it seems like people who have the freaking reading comprehension and media, like literacy of a fucking goldfish, and just, it's like, wait, hold on. In Legacy of the Force, how old, why did Mora act the way she did towards Jason? Oh, wait. Her son was with Jason Solo, and she was afraid of her own son falling to the dark side, and was trying to get her son as far away from Jason as possible, and saw Jason as a threat. Mora was doing what any mother would do, and was doing whatever she could to protect her child. And as far as I'm concerned, the way her acting the way she did, maybe acting a little irrational, making some poor choices, I think it's a natural reaction. In fact, have people forgotten that Mara Jade, when she died in Sacrifice, was not the same woman that we first saw in Heir to Empire? She was a mother. She was a wife. She was doing what she could to protect her family. And you know what? Fuck anyone that actually gives, like, I don't care if George Lucas approved of Mara Jade's death, because you know what? It was the right call. Again, it gave Luke Skywalker a arc. It had Luke Skywalker actually deal with his grief. In fact, it gave Luke Skywalker a moment when he made a critical error and killed Lamaya in cold blood, mind you, making a huge mistake, and make it so Luke cannot actually face Jason because he really wanted to kill him. And it made it so Luke, a good plot reason for why Luke couldn't fight Jason, because he was afraid of becoming the very thing that he fought against. Again, nuances. And also this paved the way for Fate of the Jedi, where Luke was exiled by Admiral Dullah, who was the chief of state because of what happened with Jason. And Luke, feeling responsible, being the person he is, left to go to find out what made Jason fall to the dark side, and his son Ben went with him. In fact, this is the reason why I love Fate of the Jedi so much. There were so many moments of Luke, as seeing Luke just doing something simple as having a conversation with his son. All these moments is why I love the EU as much as I do, because these characters feel so human. I know you could do a lot with books, But the thing is, I can have these conversations, like explain to people why I love Luke Skywalker in the EU more than I ever would love him without it. Because these people, it felt like you were seeing them like grow. It felt like you were watching them like going through good times and hard times. In fact, the EU basically was what Star Wars could become if it was in a TV series format. In fact, that is where Star Wars should actually go at this point, because the EU, you could argue it's a soap opera. And George Lucas himself said it was a soap opera. And that is what Star Wars is. The sequel trilogy, did it feel like a soap opera? Did it feel like a family opera? No, it didn't. It had nothing to do with the story of the original like trilogy. In fact, it had nothing to do with anything with the prequels. It wanted to be as far away from the fucking prequels as possible and act like they did not exist. And I know some people who have never read the EU. You may not understand it completely, but you get where I'm coming from when I'm explaining why. That's why I love the EU so much. But then again, there's some stuff people could argue that's legitimate about that they didn't like about the EU. The overemphasis on the Skywalkers. You know what? That's a fair argument. That is fair. But again, you got to understand, people, when they read the EU, that the Skywalkers was the main storyline and there weren't the only people in it. And I think that's kind of a simple take when it comes to the EU, because there's a lot of characters in the EU that had its stories with the Skywalkers. In fact, it was, yes, they were part of the main story, but it seems like these people don't seem to remember it's the Skywalker saga. So of course you're going to have a lot of stories revolving around the Skywalkers. They're the main storyline. They're the main family of Star Wars. And you know what? Eventually you did have stories that take place away from the Skywalkers and Knights of the Old Republic. Thing is, there's a lot of stuff that Disney could do to actually make Star Wars become something more than it is, but the only person that's trying and that's giving a shit to do that is Filoni and Favreau, because they're the only ones that actually really give a shit about making Star Wars Star Wars. They're not concerned with, oh, how many tickets will this movie freaking sell, or how many butts will this actually attract. That's all they think about. They have so much like stuff they can do. And in fact, I'm going to save my rantings of the sequels for those streams. Yes, I'm going to do my own stream on the sequel trilogy, my own rants on the sequel trilogy, even though I already did it with the State of Star Wars crew when I was part of the State of Star Wars. It's been enough time where I could talk about those movies again. It's been enough time. It's been more than enough time. And considering that I've had a long time to think about them, I could literally tear fucking The Force Awakens a new asshole, and I feel like I can do it better now than I can then, simply because I have more experience. I could do the same for The Last Jedi because I'm not being restricted, because this channel is both entertainment and politics. Since I could talk about politics, I could actually talk about The Last Jedi without being held back. The Rise of Shitwalker. My hatred for that movie had only increased since I did that podcast in 2020. I have more than enough material to basically make those videos feel new. And you'll get me and only me and not a few other people. Yeah, that is true. One thing I will criticize about the EU, way too much Clone Wars and Rebellion era stories and not enough material based on the Dark Times era or the pre-Attack of the Clones era. There's barely any content in that time, or the time before the Phantom Menace. There's a lot of material. Yeah, that is a criticism. They were too focused on two eras of Star Wars because that's where the movies took place. The Rise of Skywalker is not just the worst of the Star Wars sequels. It's the worst movie ever made. And I will fucking die on that hill that it is the worst movie ever. There is no movie that's worse than Rise of Skywalker. In fact, Rise of Skywalker is so bad that I have a brain agorism when I think about it. In fact, I hate the Rise of Skywalker because it is so insulting to the intelligence of those who fucking watch it. But you're not going to hear that from those who actually talk about it. They're like, you get the same boring criticisms. Oh, this movie's stupid. Oh, this doesn't make any sense in the lore. Oh, you know what? This space travel. It's like, well, oh, it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, he's going in hyperspace in this scene, he's doing in that scene. You know what? I could fucking basically give you a sneak peek of what you're gonna get in the Rise of Skywalker review of fucking rant. Because I'll fucking tell you why Rise of Skywalker is an insult. It's stupid because it insults your intelligence. I mean, the fucking movie is basically a video game. Like every single fucking scene in the movie feels like you're watching a video game. There's some scenes that look like a video game cutscene. The movie looks cheap and plastic looking. The fucking stupid and fucking cringeworthy dialogue. The unintentionally funny scene where fucking Poe Dameron says, somehow Palpatine has returned. Like something so bad that it seems like the actor just like fucking read the script. He's like, what? This is stupid. Or Kylo Ren, how it took everything that made him interesting in The Last Jedi and just regressed his character by having him just be a Darth Vader simp and still have him be a Darth Vader simp. It's like, wait, I thought he grew out of this. Or freaking like the comedy of The Last Jedi. It's like, wait, what? Huh? What? Okay, Star Wars, I understand, has some comedic scenes or has some form of humor. It wouldn't be Star Wars if it didn't have something. But this humor that you see in the Marvel films, and I do blame the fucking Marvel films for actually influencing Star Wars when it comes to the humor. And that's one thing I will give Dave Filoni. He knows when to do some humor and he knows when to do something serious. So you know what? Fuck you. Dave Filoni is the reason why I could actually take Star Wars seriously again when it comes to actually engaging with the media, with the anything Star Wars, because at least Dave Filoni doesn't insult your intelligence. Like, hey, are you laughing? Are you laughing? Are you laughing? Or you have fucking like characters acting like in stupid ways, or fucking oh god, I can't even talk about the Rise of Skywalker without freaking wanting to fucking scream because how much I hate that movie. It's so awful. It's like, oh, but no, you can't. But we can't actually go into depth why Rise of Skywalker is truly bad, because if you did that, you'd be racist and sexist, despite the fact it basically does everything to fucking that's the most some of the racist and sexist stereotypes you could ever see on film is in Rise of Skywalker. In fact, Rise of Skywalker is basically the accumulation of what corporatism does to a series of movies. When art gets so corporatized, you have Rise of Skywalker. It has no soul. It's soulless. It insults your intelligence. It doesn't respect the intelligence of the viewer. It has some of the worst dialogue ever on fucking film. In fact, I don't fucking care. I know some people who like, oh, wait, you actually gotta say the prequels have better dialogue. Oh yeah, I will. And you know what? I will go even a step further. The dialogue Anakin has with Padme in that one scene and Attack of the Clones is better than any dialogue in any of the sequel films. Yes, all of them. That dialogue is fucking something you would see in an Oscar movie compared to what you see in fucking the sequels, especially Rise of Shitwalker. You expect me to be rational, but that's not something I can do. It's like that line is a masterpiece. It is amazing. Unlike the fucking awful shit you hear in Rise of Skywalker. Also, Rise of Skywalker is what happens when you have meme culture influence film. Oh yeah, that's totally, despite the fact that fucking yeah, my favorite Star Wars character is a woman that literally dealt with literal trauma. She basically lost everything, and basically wanted to kill the person she believed was responsible for losing everything, and eventually she learns to let go of her past because of she actually when she starts the path of the Jedi, she even falls in love with the person that actually she wanted to kill originally. In fact, I consider Luke and Mora's story beautiful. They didn't get together long away. In fact, I'd argue Luke and Mora Jade, their story is an example of how to do a slow burn romance and how to do it right. In fact, I argue it's some of the best romance ever in Star Wars. Better than Han and Leia. Better than Anakin and Padme. In fact, it's one of the examples of what slow burn romance looks like. Of course, I'm talking about Luke and Mora. People, if you want to really get their story, you have to basically read like the various novels in the EU. But I think it's worth it if you have the time to go through them. I think Mora Jade is a fantastic character. Anyone that actually calls me sexist, but I love Mora Jade. She's my favorite Star Wars character. I love Jaina Solo, another one of my favorite characters. I love Tennille Cobb, probably one of the coolest female characters in Star Wars. I love Siri. Like I've listed, yeah. But these characters are only in the books. I don't fucking care. They exist. They're as legitimate as fucking any other character that exists in Star Wars. In fact, they're more legitimate than Rey. Rey's not a character. Rey is nobody. Rey is nothing. And if you're going to say Rey is a great character, but you're not going to talk about Ahsoka, if you actually think Rey is a good character, but you don't actually think Ahsoka is, I'm not going to take you seriously. I'll just fucking kick you and just be done with it, because even Ahsoka at her worst, when at the start of Clone Wars, is a better character than Rey at any point of her journey. Rey goes through the same arc 3 fucking times. There is no character development. She is as one note as you can get. There's nothing to her character. There is literally like nothing. There was the foundations of a good character in The Force Awakens, but that was completely destroyed with The Last Jedi. Like any foundation that she had that's all there is, a foundation. And her character cannot be redeemed. I don't fucking care what you fucking do in this stupid fucking movie that's going to be released in whatever, God knows how many years from now, with fucking Rey. What are you going to do? What kind of story are you going to tell? Oh yes, Rey's going to revive the Jedi. Yeah. Let's have this boring character that's so boring that nobody likes her. Nobody likes this character. Nobody. She's boring. She's like a self-insert. You know what? Even though people wouldn't get this unless they've watched the Naruto series, I consider Sakura in Naruto a better fucking character than Rey, and I fucking hate that fucking character. In fact, I'd argue Reylo fucking makes Saku fucking look good, and I fucking hate that as well. It's like when you're about as bad as fucking one of the worst characters in anime history, you're a fucking bad character. Sakura's a shitty character in Naruto. Rey's a shitty character in Star Wars. In fact, if you're like, who would be worse though between the two? Between fucking the pink-haired banshee that wastes like almost 700 chapters doing literal fucking nothing, or Rey, who just has this boring robotic performance? That's a difficult choice. Rey is only in like a handful of material, and Sakura is like 700 chapters of the Naruto manga, and if we're counting the anime, like almost like over 700 episodes of Naruto. Oh god, that's like a fucking very hard choice. Yes, that is true. Sasuke went through a lot of shit. Damian Wayne sucks. But he's better than Rey. Yeah. And I know people will take this out of context. Darth Sinovia hates women. Yeah, despite the fact I've talked I literally praised Ahsoka, even though I'm not the biggest fan of her character. I fucking literally said that Ahsoka should be a Skywalker, despite me not being the biggest fan of Ahsoka. I say Ahsoka is one of the best written characters, despite me not being the biggest fan of Ahsoka. Yeah, but okay, I guess fucking I'm sexist, despite the fact that I actually praise Ahsoka. I praise like her writing. Yes, he was based. Well, not completely, but that's a different topic. I'm not talking about that. Because I have a different perspective on what I thought of Sasuke at the end of Naruto now, because I've read the whole manga. But okay, back to the point of Rei. Rei sucks. Is there a way to improve the character of Rei? That's, you know what? To improve the character of Rei, you literally have to start from scratch. Literally, you have to basically start from Force Awakens and then go from there. If you wanted to make Rey a good character, you have to start from Force Awakens. For me, how I would have done Rey better is I would have, whether Rey was a Skywalker or not, it's completely irrelevant. Could you have made her Luke's daughter? Sure. Did she have to be Luke's related to him by blood? No, you could make her his adopted daughter. Whatever you could have done whatever you wanted with her character. You could have had Luke and Rey bond as father and daughter in The Last Jedi, or she discovers Luke is her father or something like that, and whatever. You could have Kylo Ren basically be a, you know what? In fact, double down on Kylo Ren being a fucking creep. Double down making Kylo Ren into a fucking incel. Double down making Kylo Ren a fucking little Nazi. Let him. Make him into a fucking Nazi, because fuck Kylo Ren. He's a fucking Nazi. He's a literal fucking Nazi. Double down on that. Make him a gaslighter. Make him a manipulator. Make him everything. And you know what? You could have changed the context with The Force Awakens that Kylo Ren was, if you want to change the duel, you could have Kylo Ren almost kill Rey, but she was saved because of Starkiller Base exploding. You could have had Rey being manipulated by Kylo Ren, and what Luke was terrified of was Kylo Ren basically making her join the dark side, and Luke was, and that's what made Luke scared. And you could have had Rey do what she did in The Last Jedi. She rejects them, and Luke Skywalker, you don't have him die like a fucking punk. You have him survive The Last Jedi and actually train Rey in between movies. What I know, this is basically, basically summoning things up. You basically have Kylo Ren. In fact, fuck Palpatine. He should stay dead. You have fucking Kylo Ren just be basically a Hitlerite. Basically, I just have him be what Darth Vader never could be. He just orders that fucking death, and just make him one of the most evil characters in all of Star Wars. You could just make him even like fucking worse than Palpatine. You could make him one of the most evil freaking characters in the entire franchise. Like, oh, but that would just make him into a villain. You know what? Evil Kylo would have been an amazing villain. There was potential to make him into fucking, but no, he's a crybaby. He's fucking emo. And when I'm supposed to feel sorry for this fucking incel, no, I will say this: Kylo Ren was a fucking incel. And if you were to tell people that in these groups who praise the sequels, it's like, oh, it's like no, but Kylo Ren, he's such a great character. He's so deep. He's like, what make Kylo Ren is not. There's nothing deep about Kylo. He's just a fucking incel. That's all he is. He's just an incel. That's all he is. He's your stereo fucking typical incel. I don't fucking care if I insult him. Like, Kylo Ren, if anything, is also a bad character. Not because he's badly written, which he clearly fucking is. The kind of people that like Kylo Ren are some of the worst people I ever interacted with. In fact, to this very day, when I see someone with a Kylo Ren profile picture, I block them on sight. Because they're always the people, they're the most Nazi-like people I've ever encountered on the internet. Don't believe me? Back on Facebook, when I was still active in those days, there was a guy that had a Kylo Ren profile picture that said some sexist and misogynistic stuff. And, drum roll please, was friends with a literal Holocaust denier. Of course, those who probably followed me back in those days probably know who I'm talking about. There was a Facebook page that basically was dedicated to attacking Zack Snyder. And, well, let's just say you had some pretty... This is when Facebook actually did allow open Holocaust denial and pro-Nazi propaganda, open Nazi propaganda. In fact, it still does, but you literally had overt Nazi propaganda. And these are the kind of people, this is the kind of person that a Kylo Ren fucking profile picture side basically was friends with. When I see a Kylo Ren profile picture, to me, I see that I block them on sight, wherever I am, on Facebook, YouTube, because to me, they're a Nazi. I don't fucking care. Anyone that has a Kylo Ren profile picture, every single time I've ever interacted with them, they've always been a fucking awful person. And if I block someone that isn't like that, I'm sorry, but you're fucking sus as fuck if you have a Kylo Ren profile picture. You really are sus. You really are fucking sus. If you fucking have a Kylo Ren profile picture. In fact, seeing a Kylo Ren profile picture does bring tremors to me when I see anything related to Kylo Ren. In fact, he's probably the character I get the most tremors more than Rey, because back in the day before wow, that's fucked. But seriously though, it's the reason why when I see a Kylo Ren profile picture, I literally get fucking tremors, because I got harassed massively by those kind of people. In fact, sequel trilogy fans are the reason why I'm so hostile towards them and refuse to be friendly with them and in fact treat them as my enemy, is because of people like that. They were never called out. They never called out their kind of people. The Major Lees, they're not called out for being the fucking like racist pieces of shit that they are. Yeah, some of the people that he fucking made fun of were like fucking literal fucking fascists, but the fact that he made fun of someone's name who wasn't from a white Eurocentric background is what made me fucking see that person as a racist. Like, I don't care if these people are reactionary. You don't make fun of someone's name, especially if they're from like a Middle Eastern country. You just don't fucking do that. That's just that if you do that, you're fucking racist. I don't fucking care. You don't do that. Yeah, it is. And I know this topic has basically changed, but I'm bringing this up because when I discuss these things with these people, they don't want to hear it. This is why nuance in the Star Wars fandom is dead, if it ever existed in the first place. And if we want to build a safe place for people who just want to enjoy Star Wars with like-minded people, we have to build a community. And I don't know if I have it in me to build another Star Wars community, because I cannot do it alone. I'm white. I'm cis and I'm white. According to most people, I have privilege, and I do have privilege. I have to owe up to it. I do have privilege, and I have to owe up to it. And those who refuse to do so, well, I don't trust you. I'm sorry. We all have to own up to our privilege. Yeah, that is fucked. That is completely fucked. For those of you who are watching after the fact, yeah, I'm bringing up politics because I feel like it's relevant, simply because the kind of people that these sectarians in the OT fans, they tolerate these people. They've never once called out these Holocaust deniers. They never once called out people that were pushing open Islamophobia, by the way, when it was at its height in 2015. Right, the year before, like, the election. In fact, if you ask me, anything that has happened, all the blood that has been spilled over innocent people who are from Islamic backgrounds or any ethnicity or any group, these sectarians, the blood of those people are on their hands as far as I'm concerned, because they fucking did nothing as people like that were allowed to spread their fucking hate. Like, you're no better than fucking people like Geeks and Gamers. You're fucking worse in Geeks and Gamers, because Geeks and Gamers, Jeremy doesn't fucking hide who he is. And now he doesn't. He's open that he's a fucking fascist. Eric July is open that he's a fascist. Doomcock is pretty open, not as open as they are. He's more covert. He's a clever bastard, but he doesn't hide where his leanings. None of these people do. Yet the very fact is, none of you fuckers, when you had the chance, when they had little to no power, you didn't call them out. So as far as I'm concerned, any shootings that happen for people who get inspired by people like Jeremy, those people's blood is on your hands. You're not innocent. You don't get to talk about how racist some people are when you didn't do a damn thing about the rising tide of fascism in the Star Wars fandom. You didn't do a fucking thing. You were complacent. All of you, OT sectarians, you're complacent to any fascist violence that has inevitably happened as a result of your complacency. You're complacent to the rising transphobia. You're complacent to the rising white supremacy that's open in the Star Wars fandom, where many people who are from non-white backgrounds are basically scared of being open about loving Star Wars. You're complacent to the misogyny, and you wonder why there's almost no women that are Star Wars fans are open, because they are fucking terrified, because there is no safe space for them. You're at fault for people like Doomcock being allowed to spread Nazi propaganda on a fucking platform with hundreds of thousands of people can fucking see. Thousands of children are being indoctrinated into fascist ideas because you fucking didn't do a damn thing about it when they were weak. But you'll go after people like Star Wars Theory or Thor Skywalker and label them as fucking like fascists or freaking fandom menace, despite the fact they haven't fucking encouraged any of this shit. They're not the ones that are spreading fascist propaganda. They're not the ones that are openly and encouraging to bully people from ethnic backgrounds. They're not the ones that are fucking doing that. So I don't want to fucking hear it from all you white liberals out there that claim that, oh, I'm fucking, cannot be taken seriously, even though for almost 2 fucking hours, I fucking explain various topics. There is no nuance. You don't want nuance. You're not interested in nuance. There's a lot of fucking shit that has happened. It's not like this shit didn't happen. I was there. I fucking saw open Holocaust deniers supporting fucking the sequel trilogy. I was fucking there. I have not forgotten that. Of course, the reactionaries in the Star Wars fandom could have easily used that as ammo against new canon supporters, but they didn't, because they're stupid. Thor Skywalker and Star Wars Theory, I actually would have to say, without them, the Star Wars community as a whole would have been completely overrun by fascists by now. Even though I don't agree with anything those people say a lot of the time, they're not the ones that are going around bullying people or sending their followers after people or encouraging harassment. They're not the ones that are. They're not the ones that are fucking like using their fucking the death of one of their fucking family members to like garner sympathy. Yeah, I fucking don't think I don't fucking know who anyone that knows who I'm talking about. It's Anna, that Star Wars girl, a sociopath that used the death of her own sister to push sympathy. It's like that fucking girl is fucking whatever woman is makes me sick. Like there's a lot of awful people, and the very fact, yes, she is fucking right. You know what? But that's a topic for a different time when I talk, because this is supposed to be a Star Wars stream. But you're right. Fascists should not be allowed for free speech. And you know what? I have a good memory of all this. I also haven't forgotten when a charity worker was harassed. Where were you, OT fucking sectarians? Where were you supporting this fucking woman? Nowhere, nowhere, nowhere. You fucking did nothing. It was people like me, people like General CGG. It was people who were in the state of Star Wars community. We were just a small podcast. We stood against them. What the fuck did you do? Nothing. Fucking nothing. Nothing. And you know what? That is why I look down on you. That is why I believe I am better than you. I'm better than all of you. You're never going to fucking compare to me. My Star Wars knowledge eclipses most of yours. I have more integrity than you ever will. I've actually stood against hate more than you ever will. I stood with the LGBTQ plus community as they were being attacked by fascists like the scoundrels Cantina. I'm on the front lines fighting online, literally fighting fucking Nazis in the Star Wars fandom. Well, you were comfortable in your little echo chamber, like talking shit about people that didn't like fucking The Last Jedi. It's like nothing you say will not make me have contempt for you. I'm better than all of fucking you. This isn't fucking an opinion of mine. This isn't me like having a overly high opinion of myself. It's a fucking objective fact. The kind of people you have supporting you versus the kind of people I have supporting me says a lot. I have fucking people who literally don't have a fucking place to live, who literally don't have a roof over their head. People that are watching me in squatter houses with only one phone, if they even have one. God knows how much battery. Who are risking their fucking lives resisting the police in Arizona. They're the people that watch me. A lot of my fans, a lot of those who watch me, they're part of the LGBTQ plus community. Do you have people that are part of that community, or you just use them as a token? It's like, oh, look how progressive I am. I support these people. Ignores the literal transphobia and the fucking Star Wars fandom. I don't care if I come off as being fucking arrogant. I don't care if you fucking hate me. I don't care if you fucking think that I'm the worst motherfucker alive. I'm better than you in every fucking way. I could fucking prove it with facts. I have fucking many videos talking about Star Wars. Many of you fucking people have never fucking had the balls or to actually put yourself on camera or to even do something as simple as record a video, talk about Star Wars, do a review of anything Star Wars. You've done none of that. I am better than you, and you won't fucking convince me you're not. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. All you sectarians who fucking look down on people for not enjoying Star Wars in the exact same way. In fact, I won't even call you Star Wars fans because you fucking need to have fucking other people to validate your stupid non-existent opinion. Like, when you fucking need to ever bring up, like, oh, you know what? Let's do something to trigger a certain aspect of Star Wars fans. Like, you fucking people are scum. Oh, let's trigger EU fans by thinking by getting a interview of George Lucas or Dave Filoni. It's like, you fucking people can't even actually talk about the stories. Want to actually talk about Ahsoka? Why aren't you guys? That's another thing. You guys are not even talking about anything about Ahsoka. Most of you will not, because to actually talk about Ahsoka, you have to actually do something. You actually have to do more than just suck up to fucking other people, suck up to fucking, like, faceless people that will never meet you. Oh yes, he definitely is. He's definitely intelligent. Those who say he isn't are stupid. They really are fucking stupid. It's like, you people, all of you people. In fact, I will say Thor Skywalker is superior to you too. Why? Because Thor Skywalker, he makes content that people want to watch. He does fan fictions of his own. He does discussions. He talks about every episode of whatever show that airs and gives his own honest opinion about it. He doesn't sugarcoat how he feels. He doesn't cave into pressure. He says what he's truly feeling. And you know what? Why do people still watch him? Why do people go to him? Why do people rather go to him than go to Star Wars Explainer, Splendid Wave, or Star Wars Comics? Why do people would rather go to him? Because most people don't want to fucking hear some, like, milquetoast fucking video talking about, like, anything in a Star Wars episode. They just want to hear an honest analysis, because that's what most people who actually enjoy Star Wars want, who actually genuinely enjoy Star Wars. They don't want, they're tired of hearing the Star Wars Explains, like, videos. So they're fucking boring as shit. I don't care. I really do not care. Say what you will about Thor Skywalker. Say what you will about Star Wars theory. They are not the ones that are actively targeting people. I'd rather them be neutral than having them as an enemy. Because, okay, I know he's not. I know, but I'm being nuanced here. We don't have to like these people. We have to be objective. We have to remove our emotional feelings towards them. We have to acknowledge what is objective reality. Star Wars fans, those who aren't scum, like the ones I've been ranting about for the past 2 hours, they simply just want to watch someone give an honest opinion, because the age of good Star Wars YouTube content is long gone. Ever Noah, Jen Sarai, they're the only people who make EU content that does analysis on EU related stuff. I know it's mainly versus videos, but they produce quality content. They're the only people left from the pre Disney days. They're the only ones left. And they're very few. You don't have, like, everybody else that did once make Star Wars content just gave up on it after The Last Jedi. A good chunk of them did. It's like, in general, the sad state of affairs is there isn't that many quality YouTubers that exist in Star Wars. There's Generation Tech, which I think are the best Star Wars YouTube channel that exists at the moment, that make quality content, because when they talk about the Star Wars lore, they do it in such a way that's very interesting, and the way they analyze it is amazing. I loved their video when they were talking about like all the history of Star Wars. It felt like they were talking about it from a historical point of view. In fact, even if you don't read the EU, it's still great content to watch. In fact, they're one of the better content, and they were getting shit from fucking these sectarians. You know, fucking Gen Tech, one of the few people that actually talk about the other, like, so many aspects of Star Wars, like the politics, the cultures of various alien species, the various eras of the Jedi and the Sith. Nobody is as good as Gen Tech at this time when it comes to talking about. Yes, but Generation Tech is great. I think I enjoy their content. They make some amazing videos. I'm just bringing up the fact that I got to be objective here. They make people, those who make good content, they make good content. I'm separating my political tendency. I'm separating my emotional feelings and just being objective. They make good content. We have to be nuanced about our feelings towards these people. We can't just dismiss them because of this reason or that reason. If they're not, as long as they're not harming anyone, as long as they're not going out of their way to like harm people in the other community or actively supporting people that do that, they're fine. When they start doing that, that's when we start pushing back. The Scoundrels Cantina at one point did good lore videos. But once they did that infamous video that attacked the LGBTQ plus community, I wanted nothing to do with them. I didn't care what they had to say, what they made. I don't care. Once you cross that line, I want nothing to do with you. The very fact is they didn't get as hard of a backlash as they should have says a lot. Yeah, they're not. It says a lot. The very fact that those sectarians did nothing as this fascist tide got stronger and stronger, they did nothing when it was weak, goes to show you these sectarians are fascists themselves. Yeah, I'm going to go there. I think anybody that's complacent to fascism and does nothing to actively resist it, those who supposedly cares about marginalized people, they don't give a fuck if they're not willing to speak out against them. Oh, if I do that, that's just going to like ruffle up some feathers. Fuck you. Okay, this has been going on for like longer than I expected. So, my closing thoughts regarding this stream. I originally wasn't going to do this stream because Rebels was coming out. And I do have a good amount of streams planned in the upcoming months. There will be a lot of Star Wars content coming out. There will be a lot of Star Wars content. I'm not done yet, but I'm getting to the end. This is pretty much the ending of the video of the stream. But back in the old days, for those of you who weren't there back in the day when I did videos, I used to do videos on the spur of the moment. I didn't do streams because streaming did not exist. As we know, at least the program did not, as I'm using it now, did not exist back in 2015. But I did videos like this randomly. And this is what classic Darcenovia used to do. In fact, this is the closest thing you're getting to a classic era Darcenovia content. Anyway, I just had to get it out there. Please share the video and please share it where you can because it's very important that people see this. And you know what? If people get pissed off or angry hearing me dropping one truth bomb after another, then you know what? They can get fucked. Down with fascism, and look forward to the Rebels Season 1 video. That it should be interesting because I've never seen it. Anyway, good night or good morning, depending where you're at, and may the Force be with you.